Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Green Flag TV, where we're set to go racing here tonight for the final season and the final race of the Speed Cup Series. We're going to have to speed this along, as there were some problems that kept us from getting things all sorted behind the scenes. We're launching straight into your starting grid, as we'll get set to go racing for just a little while here in this one. And excuse me, we are still going to be down over in qualifying. So things not quite sorted just yet, but hey, better late than ever when it comes to the Speed Cup Series here in this one. So I'll tell you what, it's going to be a fun race of action here for us tonight as we get set to close things out at the World Center of Racing over here on Green Flag TV. It's a race that's going to see a lot of drama, no doubt, over the course of the afternoon, and there's a lot to talk about entering tonight's race. And how about we start with the likes of the championship order that's been completely turned up on its head. Over the last week or so, the Speed Cup Series admins have gone through and they have removed a lot of drivers that have either avoided their choices to go for a championship, or they have opted to give their spots up willingly. So as a result of all of this, now your championship order looks a little bit something like this. You got Drew Eisenman, Darling, Plute, Mashburn, and Gracias as the 5 confirmed drivers locked in. 6th through 16th are still down on points, but you notice how there's no bubble. That is because there is almost a 70-point gap back to the 17th place driver, and that means it is mathematically impossible for anybody of those drivers to points their way in. The only way now that we can see somebody else get in is if we see a brand new race winner. But hey, it is Daytona. There is always the possibility for some wild action of that particular nature here in this one, and we'll get set to see how this race is going to shake on up as we'll get set to go racing for a good 70 laps of racing action around this absolutely historic Daytona International Speedway. Qualifying as we speak is very much underway, so we will be getting to all of that here in just a little while. You've got a lot of cars still working their way around that racetrack, the high banks of the Daytona International Speedway, all trying to see if they can't put themselves up towards the front end of this field. Corey Danielson currently has provisional pole. The question is, can he keep it? Danielson, of course, one of the drivers that's making one of his first starts in Speed Cup Series competition in the Caterpillar 91 Chevy Camaro. He's got a 49.674. He's now ripping the bottom lip, trying to see if he can't keep that car further up onto the point. You've got 11 drivers out of an estimated 20 or so far that have put down times. Drawn to the top of the 49.6. Danielson crosses the line and is not able to improve. He will stay 5th fastest. We look further down throughout this field as drivers are quickly putting in the lap times. Josh McDougall will go 13th on the boards initially. He'll put himself up to 4th as a result of that. We'll take a ride on board with Ben Mashburn as Mashburn fires it off of turn number 4, and he is getting set to hightail it down and around towards that front straightaway. Climbing up to speeds in excess of 180 miles an hour as we rip down the high banks, lifting out just a touch, banging it down into 4th gear, trying to get all the acceleration that you possibly can. There actually is a bit more strategy now to qualify. You'll watch him upshift here to 4th once he starts pinging off that chip, and now we'll see if he'll be able to put himself further up on the board. Mashburn, will cross the line this time by, takes it onto the apron, and only good enough for 15th quick for the driver out of the Music City, but there's still ever the possibility that he can find himself further down, further up the grid, as he will now drop to 16th, the slowest out of the drivers that have put down a qualifying lap thus far. So as Mashburn is working his way around the circuit, he is one of the few drivers that we are still waiting on to put down a qualifying lap with only 30 seconds left on the clock. He is going to be able to get that second lap in, and Mashburn will put that McDonald's number 23 Camry where, as he'll cross the start-finish line, 49.795. For all that effort, he will remain 16th quick here on the boards. And we'll get one more driver to put down the lap. It'll be the likes of Jason Chu, who will come across start-finish line, and he will put that number 3 Chevrolet up 14th quick overall on the timing charts. But that's going to do it for qualifying here at the World Center of Racing. So we'll take a rundown now of what your starting grid is going to look like as we get set to go racing for 70 laps of action around the 2.5-mile super speedway. It is the likes of Christopher Darling on pole position for Maxgrafix Racing. Kevin Cantonio in his rookie start, starting just 7 thousandths off. He'll be on the front row out of Texas. Marty Plute will be in third with Chad Engel in fourth. Michael Mooney's in fifth with Randy McCaney in sixth. Josh McDougall is seventh with Devin Pymark in eighth. Drew Eisman and Carlton Charles will round out the top 10. Moving on down to the field, you got Jeff Wyatt and Cody Ware at 11th and 12th. Corey Danielson and Jason Shu 13th and 14th. Josh Emerson and Mike Morkert 15th and 16th. Ben Mashburn, the last driver to put down the time, almost 0.2 of a second behind pole sitter Darling. Mark McFadden, Zedarius Dyes, and Tim Branson will take up the rear end of your 20-car grid as we'll get set to turn these drivers loose from the Daytona International Speedway. I want to thank some of the drivers that helped to keep the lights on over here in this one as we'll get set to go racing. As apologies for a brief second on this one, as this was of course how everything's going to be lining on up over here for the starting grid. This broadcast brought to you tonight by Beer Street Journal. Beer Street Journal is one of the largest online collections of original content dedicated to covering beer culture, education, and the advancement of the beer industry. With thousands of articles, millions of unique visitors, and exposure in over 200 countries, Beer Street Journal is paving the way to enabling category growth, engaging a broader consumer base, and promoting better tasting beer for years to come. Beer Street Journal, the best in beer. You can visit them at beerstreetjournal.com. And by Maxgrafix. Maxgrafix is all of your graphic design needs, from NASCAR to sim racing, logos, banners, posters, t-shirt design, and other commercial uses. Find out more today at facebook.com/Maxgrafix Design. And last but not least, by Twisted Steel Steak Appeal. It is a top-of-the-line barbecue rub. And while it may say steak on the label, it is perfect as well for pork, seafood, chicken, and everything in between. If you can barbecue it, Twisted Steel is worth a try. You can find out more on barbecueproshop.com and searching up Twisted Steel Steak Appeal by Marty Plute. So 20 cars start their way around the 2.5-mile speedway. We'll get set to go racing for 70 laps of racing action. Hedge your bets. Are we going to get a first-time winner? If we do, it will mean that the likes of Carlton Charles gets knocked out. He is the lone driver at the moment that is at heavy risk of finding himself out of contention. The best way for him to punch his ticket in is by he himself going for that race win. He'll be starting way down in the number 10 position, starting up on that outside line. So it's not looking good at the moment for Carlton Charles out of Windham, Maine. If he's looking to get himself secure, he is still very much at risk, but only, again, if there is a new driver that will take the win here in this race. And Daytona is Daytona. It's a racetrack where if there's ever going to be a rookie winner, it's going to be here or at Talladega, which we'll be seeing up later on in the season. Christopher Darling, meanwhile, will work his way through turn numbers 3 and 4. And we are happy that you're joining us here tonight for more Speed Cup Series racing action as the pace car will get set to make that right-hand turn down and into pit road. We enter the Geico restart zone. Time to get the party started for the last time of the regular series season. The green flag flies. Christopher Darling will lead lap number 1, but it wasn't look like he'd be able to for a hot minute, as you saw a lot of drivers are making some headway up on the top shelf. Meanwhile, 2 lanes have established themselves. Darling leads the bottom. Cantonio leads the top. You got a few drivers starting to drop back, and already Jason Shu down by 1.8 seconds from the race leaders. And he's got the likes of Morkrit, Branson, McFadden trying to make moves as well. We got one car onto the apron. That's Drew Eisman fading to the back of the field. Wants nothing to do with all this mess up in the front, so he will drop down to the tail and clips the grass on the way down in towards turn numbers 3 and 4. Darling still side by side with Cantonio for the number 2 spot. Ben Mashburn started this race from pit road. He is still on the lead lap, but he's going to be finding himself now well out of the draft. And it's only a matter of time now before he finds himself going down and into pit road. Corey Danielson dipping 2 wheels below the apron. Darling still leads at the end of lap number 3. Starting the third circuit around. Darling working the bottom. Cantonio up on the top. Plute and Engel, the pushers. Looking like that inside lane, though's got a little bit more headway here, though, as it's finding some traction down on the bottom side of the racetrack. Whoa, a bit of a bad push there from Chad Engel to the back of Kevin Cantonio. Upsets the rear end of the number 15 and almost puts the Red Bull Mustang sideways. So a few of the rookie drivers getting a little bit crossed up on the exit of, on the entry there to turn numbers 3 and 4. Micah Mooney jumps to the top shelf. He will now lead the outside line. Super Speedway racing is all about strategy, both in terms of the pits and on the racetrack. You're doing a lot of thinking behind the wheel, trying to figure out which lanes are strongest. Where do I want to go next? Do I want to try to lead the top? Do I want to go down low? How much of a checkup am I going to cause? And how much time am I going to lose by swapping lanes and funneling out of the draft? Will anybody be working with me if I make these moves? Looking like Antonio wants to work with Mooney for now, as that 88 Mustang going to continue to power through up on the high side of the racetrack, and he'll keep things solid and running as it is. As it stands, it's all looking fairly organized throughout your field thus far. You got, again, a few cars dropping back towards the rear. That would be Branson, McFadden, Morkert, and Shu, and then, of course, Mashburn. Talked about him already, having to start this race from pit road. Otherwise, it's looking like a very clean start overall, even deeper in the back in this leading grouping here. You can see the likes of Emerson working the bottom of the lane, just trying to, I guess, bide his time. At this point, it's the waiting game. Pit stops are not expected until about laps 40 to 45, give or take. Of course, that's heavily dependent on how much you run in the lead, which is something that I think Darling be a little bit more concerned about here than a few of the other drivers, as he is going to be looking to try to see if he can't put himself with a few laps at least in the draft. You don't want to lead every lap on the green. While yes, it's a very appetizing prospect, it's not one you want to take at a super speedway, because this means you're burning more fuel than anybody else, and you're going to have to finish it until you pit first when you got nobody else coming down to help you in behind. So Christopher Darden is going to have to fight his way up. But at the moment, Marty Plute being very patient, not opting to push him. He will keep himself working behind that number 11 Maxgrafix Camry as we work the back straightaway back around to turn number 3. Way in the back, you see Tim Branson headed up that train of 4. They're also in survival. They're hoping for a caution so they can get back up with the rest of these guys and start to battle again for positions. Again, Michael Mooney getting a bit squirrely up on that second line as Antonio trying to work with them, but it's so difficult to do. There's one thing these cars do not like, it is a bump draft. You can get maybe a firm shot to the shorts, but you're not going to get much more than that. Granted, that was a pretty significant problem over the Gen 6 cars as well. The days of tandem drafting are very much down and out, so you have to be so cautious when you're pushing. Thankfully for Darling, he's got a great push of the former Martin Plute right behind. Now, these guys are teammates, so there's a lot of teammate battle that's going on up and down throughout this grid right now as well. Continuing to work that outside lane as we work back around in through turn numbers 1 and 2 to the back straightaway. That car that you see way up the road, that is Ben Mashburn, who can now see these drivers in his rear view mirror and is trying to see if he can't keep them at bay and behind. Going to be swallowed up, though. I think at the moment, Mashburn's only real hope is to try to see if he can't link up with the back of all of these guys and try to see if he can't tuck in line but the speed difference is astonishing. We're talking 3 seconds a lap slower. His last lap was a 49.6. The other guys are hitting 46.6, so they are catching him at a rapid pace here. And this is now going to get a bit interesting. See, where's Maxgrafix going to go? He's going to keep that car on the high side. A lot of drivers would have to go down onto the apron on the back straightaway when they're being lapped because they don't want to find themselves kind of being caught in the wrong place. But he's actually going to make a good judgment call there because now he will be down on the apron in turn 3. And that's not a place you can get in line, but he will be able to tuck in line as a result of all of that. Now he'll slot in between, looks like that to be McCaney, Randy McCaney that he's tucked in front of there. And he'll jump now to the inside line. So Ben Mashford doing a great job on kind of reading the situation. Now he's going to keep himself only 1 lap down, and he's in the catbird seat now for a lucky dog if anything goes wrong. The outside line still not having much momentum up there, and I don't think Mooney and Cantonio are able to really work together all that much, and that's why we're seeing that outside lane struggling as much as it has been. As Darling continues to work the bottom, 10 down, 60 to go this time through. Way to the background here, you can see Corey Danielson now has lost pretty significant touch with this leading pack, and now he's going to fall right back to Branson's crew entering turn numbers 1 and 2. A tough break there for Corey Danielson, but at least he's got a second pack he can fall back to and hopefully maintain some speed and keep himself going a lap down. That's, I think, the critical thing. While, yes, the pack behind can't catch these guys, so they just don't have the numbers. They are definitely not losing a lot of time. It would take until at least lap 50 or so at this pace before they actually lost that lap. So that's the good news for the second pack. If we're going to have pit stop before then, I'm willing to bet we'd probably have a caution before then as well. Although that said, Daytona in these Cup cars, they tend to be very caution-free run-of-the-mill races. I mean, it's there's a format, right? You go double file pretty much throughout the entirety of the first stint when you're all bunched up together. Everybody comes down to their own little clicks, and then you just pretty much remain single file until about the last 5 laps or so. That's kind of the basic formula now for Daytona racing in these Gen 7 cars. It honestly almost makes these races more predictable than the races we've seen prior at tracks like Pocono earlier on in the season. The big question comes in the form of when a caution comes out, what do you do? If a caution comes out prior to lap 30, they're not going to be able to make it to the end, which is, I think, going to be a critical point. If they come in between laps 35, between laps 30 to 35, sorry, I make that 25 to 30, they might just be able to make it, but it would be a huge stretch on fuel. A lot of saving would have to be done. And fuel saving is just not something you can do a whole lot if you're leading a pack or if you're only in a pack of about 3 or 4 trying to catch up to everybody else. It's not like you can just lift and coast entering these corners. You're almost flat-footed the entire way around, except when you are in the draft. It's one of the few times when you're not because you're trying to balance things out, and that's where you can save a lot of fuel by lifting out of that throttle to make sure you can't bump draft or overtake the guys in front of you. So at the front of the train, Darling continues to lead the way from Plute. Mooney still working the top shelf with Josh McDougall to his inside. See a few moves from that second train, but you can tell more and more drivers are losing faith in that high side. That's why we're starting to see a bit of an exodus down to the bottom lane. It was just 4, but we will have McDougall jumping up to the outside line. He's going to get around Marty Plute now with that slingshot. He's going to try to make a pass here on Darling for the lead. Now held by Kevin Pyrog, who will also jump up to the second lane. And they are going to make a run for it. As Darling's momentum falters, Pyrog and McDougal both clear for 1 and 2, and they'll immediately abandon the outside line and jump back down to the bottom. And now here comes Michael Mooney now with the huge jet of steam. Mooney will become all of a sudden the third different race leader in just 1 lap. What a move from Michael Mooney. Puts himself at the front. You've got McDougal and Cantonio still in the fray as well, trying to make something happen. Everybody now starting to scramble, and this is usually only going to end in one way, but this is going to cause a massive stack up throughout the entirety of this leading group. And we could see another very stark division in this field unless these guys that are starting to lose touch can get single file in a hurry. Then they might just be able to catch up. Oh, contact in the middle. That was between the 73 of Josh Emerson and Michael Mooney, I believe. So getting a little bit physical as we work down through turn numbers 3 and 4. Almost had caution flag number 1 right there. Look, though, at how discombobulated this entire field is now as we'll look from the air. You can see now just how spaced out everyone is. I mean, this is not good news, I think, for everybody in this field that's trying to have themselves with a decent run. There you can see that secondary pack starting to lose touch. The outside line is the only one with any kind of formation on it. You see everybody on the inside line are more just kind of sitting ducks at the moment, as we're going to see McDougal potentially lose out to the leaders. Josh Emerson looks to suddenly take things up towards the point. Finally, this leading pack going to get itself established, and now we have fallen from what was once a pack of 19 down to just 9. As you can see, a whole host of drivers further in the back. Carlton Charles leads the way from 10th place on back. Darling, Plute, Eisman, McCaney kind of also tucked into the fray as well as we keep slowly but surely working our way through. You can see McDougal, Pyrog, Engel, and more running line astern. Whoa, bit of a loose moment off of turn 4, and that's going to cause a lot of the outside lane to fall back down to the bottom just to avoid losing the draft. But the 86 of Jeff Wyatt not going to be deterred. He's going to jump with Michael Mooney up to that secondary line and start to work our way through turn numbers 1 and 2 to the back straightaway. Working up and around. McDougal still holds the lead. Secondary train is all tucked single file, and this is where all the heavy hitters are, right? Eisenman, Plute, Darling, all with wins under their belts. 2 of them with multiple wins under their belts. And they are relegated to that secondary line, really showing that it is partially about luck when it gets down to Daytona, right? It is not everything. But part of it is very much luck, and that is what's caused them now to start to slip back and suffer a little bit more. Jeff Wyatt will power through after starting way back in 11th. He will take up the race lead. Now Michael Mooney will fall in line for that number 2 spot as well. Kevin Cantonio still working the high side, still leading the outside line. He's led the outside line for a good chunk of this race now. 50 laps remaining. We are starting to close in on halfway. Another big wobble. A snake down the front straightaway from that inside line. And Pyrog trying to stick his nose in where it doesn't belong. And that caused the inside to scramble. They all have to check up. And somehow, again, we don't have a caution as Devin Pyrog forced the hole. That is annihilated the outside line. As Cantone and Emerson falling back. And as I say that, Cody Ware will start to drive back up. Give some assistance to these two runners up on the high side. All the while, Darling, Plute, Eisman, McKinney, Charles have all been starting to slip further back throughout this field, and they're actually now about to be more into the hands of this third train, the tertiary train, with Branson, McFadden, Morcrit, and Shu, along with Danielson, than they are up front. Now, this is interesting because my thoughts are if these two trains can link up and, again, remain single file, with all the chaos that's going on up front here, they very well might be able to go for the lead, and Michael Mooney's into the outside wall. Mooney slams the outside. He'll jump down to the bottom and just lose the drive. He will not have a caution, but a big moment there, and that was for the race lead as well. As here's how it happened. Coming into turn number 3, this is going to be working it from the back straightaway. Watch as Wyatt is going to start to jump down to the inside line once he gets clear of Josh McDougall on the bottom. Going to try to get down low, doesn't know where to go. Michael Mooney gets a bit too opportunistic, clips the left-hand side, and body slams the outside wall. And that sends Mooney back to the second train. This now becomes a pack of 8. There's moments like that that really tend to split super speedway races as a whole up, and we're seeing the results of that one here. Again, though, these guys behind are all single file, so I'm still maintaining that thought that hello, Mooney. Again, into the outside wall, takes Carl to Charles with him. What on earth happened there? As Michael Mooney got all sorts of crossed up. Coming out of the tri-oval. And Devin Pyrog way down the racetrack as well. So we'll first look back to what happened to Michael Mooney here. This is coming off of, this is off of 2. We'll jump a bit further up. This is going to be working out of the tri-oval. This is going to be out of turn 4. We're going to ride on board here with this. As this is all taking place. Is it a bad bump or has something else gone wrong here? Oh, just didn't know where to go. Got loose. Rebounded in the car to Charles. And again, hard into the outside wall. But again, no yellow flag for this. Now, further up front, Devin Pyrog had a problem with the zone. That was further up the road. And here's how this happened off of 1 and 2. Oh, he's been hit by Josh Emerson. And how's that for a save? Falling apart for these guys in the leading group. They're down to just 7 now. The ones that are behind far outnumbered. These trains have a much more real possibility now of catching up to them if things keep up at this current rate. As Michael Mooney will file in a pit road, the first driver to take a pit stop. Or sorry, the second. Yeah, he is the first driver to take a pit stop. Emerson and Ware will go to the top side. That lets Jeff Wyatt through. Down on the bottom into the race lead. Don't look now, but that group tucked in behind, starting to close. See the time deltas here to this one, and you can, I think you can really get an idea here of just how this is going. You can see, you see Cantonia back to Darling. Look at how much they've closed on just the last lap alone. They reeled in half a second. The lap before that, almost 3/10. So these guys in that second pack are closing in again. So we could very well see a good chunk of this field get back up into form, unless these guys up here in the front can get single file and start to work together. Single file, yes, but the working together seems to be the difficult part, is again where Emerson and Cantonia will jump to the top side. So no loyalty being shown at all in the leading group, which is not something that we're seeing further in the back, where a lot of these guys, again, are teammates. Slowly closing in on that halfway point as well. It's only about 6 laps away at the line, so this race is flying by as things stand. Jeff Wyatt continues to lead the way. Here's the secondary pack. It's got Branson, McFadden, Morkford, Charles, Dennison, and Chu. Those are guys on the lead lap. But Mashburn and Michael Mooney, or at least Mashburn is part of this train as well. He's still a lap down. And you got your second pack. Darling, Plute, Eisenman, McCaney, and Pyrog. And in this battle up front, the one for the lead with a lot of new names that we do not see at the front very often. Jeff Wyatt, of course, making his first start. Josh McDougall is a driver we've seen before plenty of times, but he has not so far really been a front runner. Cedarius Dye's only made his first start a few weeks ago. Cody Ware is new. Chad Engel is relatively new, but not entirely. Cantonio is new. And I think the fact that a lot of these guys are not used to racing around each other is what is contributing to all of this melee that we're seeing up towards the front, as Emerson trying to pull around Wyatt for the race lead. And that again allowing the secondary pack to close in. Darling has reeled the gap up to Engel to just under 9/10 of a second. They are now within drafting distance. So all of a sudden, this is going to get set to become another 12-horse race for the lead. Still running under our first and so far only green flag run of the afternoon. Oh, Emerson bobbles it out of turn 2. He'll throw the lead away and give it to Cody. Whoa, no, he won't. Cody Ware lets him back in line. Cody Ware showing some sympathy. We'll let Emerson back in line, but that's going to officially bring Darling and Co. back into the mix. There is your secondary train running now right behind the main front runners. So now it's another big question as to who's going to do what. Saw the 12 of Dice trying to look up to the high side, not able to do so. And the second train looking to mount a crusade right up next to the wall, while Emerson tries to fend these guys back from the bottom. It's only going to take one bump for this to go absolutely catastrophically wrong. And that is something that I say at every Super Speedway race like a broken record, and almost every single time it comes true. Darling continuing to make moves. Pulls alongside Ware. Pulls alongside Emerson. A huge shot to the shorts from Plute will propel Darling through and into the race lead once more. And now 3 wide as Emerson gets caught in the middle. Cody Ware finally abandons Emerson. He'll drop to the bottom. Emerson trapped, doesn't know where to go, tries to go high, tries to go low, trying to side trap one of these lines to get a gap out going. And Ware lets him back in on the bottom. But again, another nail biter. A nail biter moment as we work back around the Daytona Superstretch. Now McKinney and Eisenman looking to the inside. And Plute and Darling will be able to get down to cover before they can make an offensive for the race lead. Halfway home, 35 down, 35 to go. And now we could very well potentially see pit strategies start to come into play. Darling, remember, has already won a race. So has Plute. The first driver back in this pack that has not won a race as of right now would be Rick McKinney. Devin Pyrog working the high side as well, trying to see if he can establish a run to the back straightaway. He's got Josh McDougall, and I want to say that Sedarius Dye's working with him at the number 12. It is. But 3 cars just can't mount an offensive on their own unless they're right up near the front. You really do need to have a lot more than just 3. And right now, it doesn't look like anybody's opting to go for the high side. I'm noticing a lot of these drivers are starting to space out a bit more. My guess, prepping for pit stops. And speak of the devil, here we are. The entire second lane is coming in. Branson, McFadden, Charles Danielson, Engel, and Mashburn all into the lane. You see a shoe in right behind. So this is our first real pit strategy call here in this one, as these guys trying to see if they can't find themselves with some kind of speed. Might trying to go for that undercut once this main pack starts to split itself up. Overall, looking to be 4 tires and fuel all around. That's an interesting call. Usually a few drivers, in fact, most drivers in most cases, opt to only take fuel. And here comes everybody else. Darling and Eisman lead in the pack. Pyrog, McDougall, and Dyes will all stay out as everyone else is into the lane. Oh, in trouble for Josh Emerson. He's going to stop in the middle of pit road, and that slams or checks up Jeff Wyatt. What on earth was that and why? We have no idea. But Josh Emerson, I think, got lost. Wasn't sure what to do as he is now trying to back up. Emerson not sure where his pit stall is, I'm pretty sure, and he's got to be careful. I've seen people actually get disqualified if they go back too far. And as he just found it here. Nope, still trying to back it up. I'm very confused as to all of this. Now Pyrog, McDougall, and Dyes are all into the lane. And finally Emerson makes it in. Oh boy, that was, well, that was intense for a little bit. We're going to ride on board with Josh Emerson as he files his way down and into pit road. You're going to watch for his pit stall over on the left-hand side, and we're going to see how he missed this. The pit stalls are all coming up. Left-hand side of your screen. He's going to be just past the number 53s. So right there is his pit stall, and I think at this point he realized he's missed it. He slams the brakes, and Jeff Wyatt, unside, just slams into the back of him. Well, now with pit stops done and dusted, we are able to go to the end on fuel now. It's only a question now of who's going to lead where. McCaney, Eisman and Moore have caught Pyrog and McDougal, and they're going to blitz past on the low side. And that puts down Drew Eisman into the point. So with everything sorted as it stands, and we've got your field looking set to almost be green to the end, here's the rundown of the field. This is your Green Flag TV Midway Race Break. Drew Eisenman, Rick McCaney, and Chris Darling currently worked 1, 2, and 3. Series rookie making his debut tonight, Kevin Cantonio, runs in 4th. Has potential, though, at this point, to lock himself into the playoffs in just his first start. Devin Pyrog is in 5th with Josh McDougal back in 6th. So Darius Dines is going to be in the number 7 spot. He's in a battle with Martin Plute, Tim Branson, the 22 of car you see in the mix here as well of Rick McFadden. Cody Ware is in here as well. Carlton Charles heads up the rear of this secondary train. Corey Danielson runs by his lonesome. It is the same story with Chad Engel. Mike Morkrid also runs on his own, along with Jason Shue, Josh Emerson, and Ben Mashburn. Jeff Wyatt is 2 laps down, with Mashburn being 1 down. And Michael Mooney on the racetrack is 6 laps down. That is your look top to bottom for your midway race break. We're going to take a step away. You're not going to miss a lap, though. You're watching the Speed Cup Series live on Green Flag TV.
Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head-to-head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.
Welcome back to the Speed Cup Series, still under our first and only green flag run of the night. The second pack has caught the first, and once again we are getting ourselves set for a Titan battle in this, the final race of the regular series season, where we lock the top 16 out and begin it all over again. Devin Pyrock currently leads the way. He and Josh McDougall and Cantonio have all not won a race. They run 1, 2, and 3 with the potential to lock themselves into the playoffs and bump Carlton Charles out, as we've got just over 20 laps remaining. See so many of these drivers weaving left, weaving right. The lines just keep snaking no matter which direction you try to take it in. And now Plute has the run on the top shelf with Dines trying to go with him. But succeed they will not. 2 cars means diddly squat. 3. All right, I'm listening. Josh Emerson will jump up to the high shelf to try to help these guys out. Emerson, of course, 1 lap down, and yet still getting himself involved in these leading battles. And while Emerson is a lap down, Mooney's not complaining, because he's able to push Emerson to the front, but he is going to jump down between Cantonio and Eisenman. Plute immediately jumps back up to the high side, and this time Drew Eisenman goes with him. Now we've got a battle as Plute will try to power home, and he'll try to take this one around the outside of McDougall and Pyro, trying to end some hopes of drivers that are trying to lock themselves in with this last critical win at a racetrack that has seen so much strategy pan out already. It's like I was mentioning at the top, double file or single file, all the way up until we get right down to the final laps. That's where it's all going to start to kick off. To be fair, it's been kicking off already for a good chunk of this race. There's been a lot of great fighting going on for spots further up front and into the race lead. You see Jason Shu down on the bottom, going to let these this leading pack through. I'm amazed that Pyrog's been able to keep the lead as long as he has, especially with Josh McDougall and Cantonio pushing. But you got, and keep in mind, that in itself is great, but then you got the likes of Plute, Eisenman running together the high side. It makes it even more impressive as Sedarius Dines is into the wall. Scraped along the outside wall of the tri-oval, gonna get himself sorted though. Devin Pyrog continues to lead the way, while Josh McDougall works just behind in that number 2 spot. It's been an interesting race so far. You see McDougall doing everything he can to try to continue to push Pyrog clear of this field. But Randy McKinney back behind is, whoa, hello. That was a big shot. What in the world's happened here? All of a sudden, a good chunk of the field is just falling apart. Well, stand by. Let's get a look back, see what just happened coming to the back straightaway. And this is, whoa, Eisenman and Plute went onto the apron. Well, that explains that. They both went to the apron, and Branson put him 3 wide. That forced Plute to stay down. He couldn't get, he does get up, but in front of the 22, and Carlton Charles had to slam on the brakes. So that got a bit clumsy, but that's now knocked Plute, McFadden, and Charles all out of contention now, potentially for the win. So Devin Pyrog will continue to lead the way. He'll get around the outside of Mike Morcrid. Put only 14 cars now on the lead lap, and now, well, Pyrog's lead is about to come to a close. I can tell you that right now, because look at how big the gap is now between McDougall and Pyrog. It would be detrimental at the moment if McDougall were to just help the brakes and help him out. And he's going to do just that. He's going to give him the bumper, and that's going to, again, bring the rest of this field right in. We've got time for these closing laps, so we can talk about what's coming on up next for the Speed Cup Series. The round of 16 will be set to follow August 31st through September 4th. After tonight, the points will be reset back to 0. Bonus points are given for race wins. And then we'll have 3 races: Darlington, Kansas, and Bristol. After Bristol, the bottom 3 are chopped, and we do it all over again. First to the round of 12, then to 8, and then the championship 4 will again have their points reset for a Titan battle, winner takes all, in Avondale, Arizona, in the Phoenix International Raceway. Ben Mashburn going to officially lose 2 laps. And checks up Eisman, who doesn't know where to go. Eisman will fade to the bottom. $15 laps remaining, and another pair about to be caught. It's going to be Chad Engel and Corey Danielson. 2 series newcomers about to be lapped in what is going to be Danielson's first race down in the Speed Cup Series. And this pack going to move up to the high side to try to get around him. Pyron and McDougall. Cantona was looking a bit indecisive there. Thought he was going to go down and try to join it with the lap cars on the bottom for a minute. Pyron will officially drive through to the front. And it's a hornet's nest on the front straightaway. So far, fairly smooth running. As Pyrog, McDougall, Cantonio remain the top 3. Now, with the number 7 of Chad Engel working the bottom. Cantonio's got the run from the top shelf, pushes to second, making the push for first. Side by side for the race lead, but the momentum has gone the way of the high side lane. Tim Branson scrapes the outside wall off of turn 2. That might cost him the draft on the Daytona Super Stretch. Tell you what, though, these guys have been doing a great job so far on keeping things more or less clean. Yeah, there's been a few bad bumps here or there, but nobody's ever fully spun around. And it has kept this race so far. We've been green up to this point, making record time. Now with coming to 11 laps to go. Time is very quickly starting to run out for guys further back in this battle pack if they want to go for moves. So I think if we're going to be seeing anybody looking to make moves, it's going to be guys like Tim Branson that are trying to find their way through towards the front of this thing. We're not going to be seeing these guys way at the front here like Antonio Parker and Moore start really battling until we're down to 5 to go, I'd reckon. Oh, Emerson, look out. Wow, we could not hold a line at all. And that number 73 car, middle of the line. And that allows for Cantonio to clear, working down into turn 1. Or 3, excuse me. So Pyrog falls to second here. Could fall to third as Emerson will chop to the bottom now. And we officially hit 10 laps to go. Oh, bit of 3 wide as Pyrog will jump to the apron. He's going to lose a boatload of time. You saw Sidarius Days trying to make a move to the middle line, and he'll pick up the number 2 spot. Antonio still leads the way. Working off a turn number 4. Across the trial for 9 to go. Mashburn's just taken one of his laps back, but it's not going to hold that way for very long. As Cantonio keeps trying to work the bottom. Days is working the inside as well. Drew Eisman is kind of trapped up on that second lane behind a lap car, and that's going to be frustrating, Eisman. You know it is. Another lap car in the play. It's Michael Mooney. Mooney will take it to the apron. He already knows what's at stake, and he's not even going to bother trying to fight it out. He will go 9 down. You see these leads twitching, and it's making my hair stand on end here as I am struggling to keep a composure on all of this here. This is only going to take 1 inch of someone going a bit too far on the line for this to end in absolute disaster. And now again, less than 10 laps to go. What do you do in this situation? Honestly, if I'm Ben Mashburn, I'm bailing out of this as quick as I can. It is so risky right now to stay in the grouping here. If he falls back, he's got the potential to at least get 1 lap back. And so again, another bobber and Days. Going to put Pyro through to the middle. Darling up on top. Contact. Look out as Days swings it into the infield. He'll try to cross it back up. And he will do so, but he'll lose touch with the leading pack. What a save. Cody Ware, meanwhile, hits pit road. Devin Pyrog still works the top side. Still got Kevin Cantonio on the bottom. It is all starting to kick off as we are 6 laps left to go. And now the secondary pack with McKinney and Charles has closed into the fray. It is all eyes up front as these guys continue to scrap it out for these final precious positions in these final critical laps of what could be one of the most impactful races of the season. Pyrock chops to the bottom. He'll go for the lead. Remember, Pyrock and Antonio battling to see which one of them will lock themselves in. If either Drew Eisman is still in the fray, he can steal it from both of them. And Pyrock gets turned off in turn number 4. Sideways on the front stretch, and the yellow flag is out for the first time. And we're going to have Mashburn sliding down. He'll body slam the inside wall, rebounds back, and across the pit entry lane. Caution flag number 1 with 5 to go. Oh boy. Well, this is where it gets interesting. You're going to get a look on what happened here. First, the Devin Pyrock coming off turn number 4. Just got hooked by Mashburn. And he got collected by Tim Branson. And that spun Pyrock way down to the inside. And then, meanwhile, we saw Mashburn take a pretty hefty whack into that inside wall as he kind of got turned as a result of all this across the nose, and bang, hard hit into that inside barrier. Not the way we wanted to see this race start to pan out, but unfortunately that is how it panned out nonetheless, as again, just gosh, that is a heavy, heavy lick. The number 23 McDonald's Camry down to the turn number 1. So caution flag for the first time. We're going to take a step back. You're watching the Speed Cup Series and the final race of the regular season at Daytona International Speedway. We'll be back in a moment as drivers, only a few though, will hit pit road. Welcome back to Daytona International Speedway in the World Center of Racing. We are just coming to the close of yellow flag number 1. It took a while, but finally it did come about, and we had a secondary incident it looked like potentially underneath this one, as this is Cody Ware exiting pit road, and in fact he may very well have just pulled it to a stop, but in fact that is exactly how it ended up happening. But here's what happened. Meanwhile, this is working off of turn numbers 3 and 4. This is if you're just joining us. Devin Pyrock gets turned by a lapped car. Ben Mashburn, this is in the fight for the lead. You can see the lights Cantonio on the outside. They get hooked together coming off of the final corner, and Mashburn is sent spearing hard into the inside barrier, while a few drivers have to escape across the infield grass. Lights have gone out. It'll be a natural green-white checker finish. So 2 laps the distance. If we make it back to the white flag, race is official. If we don't, we will reset for overtime in our first official bout of overtime. Or at the moment, this is a natural green-white checker finish. It works the exact same way as a traditional one, except it's not an actual overtime attempt. Well, hedge your bets, once again, kind of to reiterate what the championship situation is looking like entering the race here in this one. You can see Carlton Charles way down there at the bottom. He is on the bubble. If one of these drivers that has not yet gotten a win, that is outside the top 16 of points, gets a win, then all of a sudden, that will bump Carlton Charles out. So if Cantonio gets a win, he is out. McDougall can get a win, and he will still be fine. It is so fine, the margins here in this one. So we'll see how all this is going to pan on out. Kevin Cantonio, in his first ever Speed Cup Series start, will get set to take the green flag with 2 laps left to go, working off of turn numbers 3 and 4. Pace cars off and into the tri-oval. Into the Geico restart zone. Green flag is up in the air. Here we go, firing across towards turn number 1. Cantonio pulls clear. McDougall working the top. Eisenman trying to pull down to the bottom and get another race win. Only a few drivers able to properly capitalize. We've got 1.5 laps left to go. Working the Daytona super stretch for the penultimate time. Darley McDougall pushing on the top. Eisenman and Cantonio lead to the charge on the bottom. Working off at turn number 4. Back around. Crashing in the background. Ben Mashburn gets sideways. No caution. White flag is out. This race is official with only 1 caution on the night. McDougall pushed clear by Darling. If you're going to make a move, you got to make it now on the back straightaway, especially if you're deeper in the field. They're keeping the pin to the middle. They don't know where to go. They're going to get swallowed out. They're caught in the sucker hole. You got the likes of Cantonio on the bottom. Here comes Randy McCaney firing through on the top shelf. 3-1 across the board as we work into turn numbers 3 and 4. McCaney pulls clear with Plute. See these lines bobbling, weaving hard at the outside wall. Goes Mark McFadden. We're crashing it big time off of turn number 4. Well, up in front, the drive to the line. Randy McCaney pushed by Marty Plute will take his first win of the season. So Randy McCaney will take a race win. And critically, I do believe that knocks Carlton Charles out. We'll get confirmation, but I do believe McCaney, with that race win, has just knocked Carlton Charles out of the top 16. And he was pushed by teammate Martin Plute. Team orders surely had to be at play. And it is going to be a burn down on the front straightaway and a high-speed one at that. With Randy McCaney closing things out as he will set Daytona International Speedway alight by burning it up on the apron. Oh boy. That is going to be something to talk about for sure. And Carlton Charles has got to be sweating, waiting for the official word on this one. We'll take a look at what happened coming on around into the final corners on that last critical lap. Where, boy, oh boy, it got physical working down in towards turn number 3. This is to the back straightaway. You can see everybody stacking on up in the middle of the groove as they all just come together. Right there, it all falls apart. McFadden gets turned hard to the outside wall, and pandemonium off of turn number 4 with the big one on the final lap. With all of that now sorted, we'll take a rundown of your official post-race results here from the Daytona International Speedway, where it is the likes of Randy McKinney to win this race after being pushed by Marty Plute. Devin Pyrock will be in third. Drew Eisman is in fourth. Carlton Charles is in fifth. Josh Emerson was in sixth. Tim Brandt was seventh. Josh McDougall was in eighth. Christopher Darling is in ninth. And Mark McFadden rounds out the top 10. Cedarius Day is going to be in the 11th spot. Kevin Cantonio, first driver, one lap down, not finishing this race, down to the number 12 spot. Jason Chu is in 13th. Corey Dennison in 14th. Chad Engel 15th. Mike Morgan in 16th. Ben Master in 17th. Cody Ware along with Mike Mooney and Jeff Wyatt will round out your 20-car field here tonight. And confirmation from race control, Randy McKinney becomes the 16th driver into the playoffs, as Carlton Charles was in fact eliminated with that move on the final lap, pushed by Martin Plute. We'll be able to take a talk with all of the folks at the end of this one, as holy cow, what a ride that we have seen here tonight. And we will see if we can't get in touch with race winner Randy McKinney, who will come home, and he finds himself now the 16th driver locked into the playoffs. And Randy, what a way to get it done right when it counted. And holy cow, you got to thank your team and Martin Plute for this one after that.
Oh, absolutely. That without Martin, I was going to finish fourth or fifth. He said he had fresh tires, and he said pick a lane, and he's going to push me.
So kind of walk us through these last few laps, because obviously for you, it's a big win, right? You know you have to get that win. And by doing this, you knock Carlton Charles out of contention for the playoffs here as well, with locking yourself into that final critical spot. What was the mindset throughout the race, and especially those last few laps?
Actually, through the first half of the race, I was just trying to, stay clean, save some gas. I was just riding, and, we thought the big one was going to happen, so we could try to stay out of trouble. And then towards the end there, that last caution, and I told everybody on our channel that it's everybody for themselves, and whoever could get a run, I'd push whoever.
So now it's all eyes forward to the round of 16. You've locked yourself in. What do you think you're going to have to do over the course of Darlington, Kansas, and Bristol to find your way into the round of 12?
Survive. Those 3 hard tracks to survive on, especially Darlington. That's probably going to shake up the playoffs the most.
Well, we'll wish you the best of luck then when we go racing at the round of 16 at the Darlington Raceway 1 week from now. For now, congratulations, though, on that race win, and we will wish you the best of luck then next week.
Thank you very much.
That was Randy McKinney, your winner, and now the 16th driver locked into playoff contention. We'll move on down to Martin Plute, the driver that finishes this race number 2. And Martin, you already locked yourself in a few weeks back, but it must feel good to finally be able to make it official that you're a playoff driver.
Yeah, it's good. It was a good race, and probably the happiest I'll be finishing second. So it's all good. That was a good race, and I can't believe they kept it clean till 5 to go. So it was a good race, and looking forward to the playoffs.
It was already looking to be a somewhat intense ride throughout these last 10 laps or so, and then all of a sudden, you're right in the thick of it. It all kicks off with Pyrog and Mashburn right in front of you guys. What goes through your heads when you see everything starting to just unravel in front of the field with so few laps to go?
Well, you knew something was going to happen. So at that point, I think everybody's tires were they're not showing worn, but they don't feel great. So I came in and got tires, only lost a couple spots. And I think that's really kind of what did it. You feel a lot more comfortable with new tires, even at Daytona, than ones that have been around here 70 laps. So it was good. I knew I had to get Randy up there because he needed a win for the playoffs, and they were all worked out.
So you look now to the round of 16, Darlington, Kansas, and Bristol. Which tracks in that group are going to be ones that you know you'll thrive at, and which ones will you have to put in the work?
Usually I'm pretty good at Kansas, although I have to believe I just jinxed myself on that. I hate Darlington, and Bristol is usually just kind of a mess. So probably do a little bit of work in Darlington, and well, just gamble at Bristol probably. Hopefully, I locked in by then.
Well, fingers crossed. We will wish you the best of luck. In the meantime, enjoyed this second place finish, and we'll hope it'll be one better to lock stuff into the round of 12 next week.
Yeah, thanks. I'll see you next week.
Marty Plute brings it home in the number 2 spot. We'll move on down to the third place driver. Devin Pyrog will join us up here from the number 3 spot here on the podium. And, well, Devin, it almost fell apart for you. You got turned by Ben Mashburn there with less than 5 to go. What was kind of the thought process, and how'd you recover in these last 2 laps?
Man, it. I didn't feel too confident after I got turned. It was just feeling it out, man. Like I was planning on taking it easy, but once I saw that top line coming out, I was going with him, with Martin and Randy.
So obviously, for your playoff hopes here, it's looking good for you. You have points your way in successfully. You didn't get the race win to lock yourself in, but hey, you have more than enough points to be well clear of the bubble spots. That set in mind, though, do you reckon you'll be able to work your way into the round of 12?
It's gonna be tough. There's a lot of good people in the top 16 right now. I know I'm not too good at like Bristol right now, so I'm not sure, man.
I mentioned Bristol's not necessarily your strong suit. What about Darlington? How do you reckon you'll fare next week in South Carolina?
Well, Darlington, I feel pretty confident. I only had one issue when we ran Darlington last, and I don't think that issue is going to happen again. So I'm pretty confident with Darlington.
Well, we will hope then that maybe it'll be at Darlington where you can take that first win of the season and lock yourself into the round of 12. For now, though, congratulations on the third place finish and the bounce back in the natural green-white checker. We'll wish you the best of luck next week.
Yeah, thank you.
As Devin Pyrog joined us up for the number 3 spot in his Discord, number 46 Ford Mustang. And, well, that's going to about do it for us then here today. What a night it was. And your playoff drivers at the end of the night will be Drew Eisenman, Chris Darling, Martin Plute, Ben Mashburn, Jason Gracias, Josh McDougall, Michael Mooney, Stan Hausman, Mark McFadden, Rick Wishon, Josh Emerson, Doug Milliner, Devin Pyrog, Tim Branson, Mike Morcrid, and Randy McCaney. They will lock out the top 16 who have their points reset now, and they will get set to launch themselves right into next week. Coming on up on Green Flag TV, it is going to be, of course, once again, the GNGG IL Truck Series coming on up on Saturday, where DJ Clark and I will be back to bring you the Lobster Stay 100 for the Magic Mile. Join us on Monday night for another doubleheader with the Pro Car Concepts Road Challenge Series and their second race at the Brickyard, along with Austin Edstrom joining me in the broadcast booth for the High Tide Racing League MF Racing Designs Cup Series at Las Vegas. Once again, Dylan Coyle will join me for the OMSRL Xfinity Series when we go racing down at Charlotte Motor Speedway over in North Carolina. Charlotte always provides a good show. Definitely tune in for race number 8 in the Xfinity Series over on Tuesday nights. For now, though, here from the Daytona International Speedway, that will conclude our show. Thank you so much for joining us for more Thursday night racing action. We'll see you all on Saturday at the Magic Mile.